Today is June 20th, 2017, and this is the beginning of an interview with John Stone, a U.S. Army veteran of World War II. My name is Laura Gill, and I will be the interviewer. Okay, so Mr. Stone, if
Yes.
you don't mind, may you please tell us where and when you were born?
I was born in Hanover, Indiana, in August 29th, 1918.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about your parents and maybe what they did?
Yeah, my dad was a farmer, and we lived in southern Indiana on a farm. And that we had a lot of children in our family. Eventually, they ended up with 13, 9 girls and 4 boys. But the last one passed on, so in our family, there were 12 of us that grew up together, 9 girls and 3 boys.
And what number were you?
I was the 5th child born and the first boy.
Oh, wow.
So I had 4 sisters born ahead of me, and I knew about women a long time ago.
So you had a lot of responsibility being the first boy.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
We were low-income people on the farm, and then when I was 4 years old, my parents moved to northern Indiana, and they lived on a farm. We all lived on a farm there. We had no electricity, and of course, we lived off the farm. So our income was very low. We didn't buy anything but bread, maybe, and flour once in a while. But we learned how to live and get along with ourselves. And we enjoyed life. We had a very, very happy Christian family and enjoyed life growing up.
Are some of your siblings still here?
There are 4 of us out of the 12 remaining. There are only 3 of the 12 able to go to our reunion now. We have a reunion this weekend. So we begin to drop off one by one, but we enjoy life.
All right, so if you don't mind, would you share what branch of the military you served? Did you enlist on your own, or were you drafted? And why did you choose the specific branch of military?
Okay. I was going to school, and I was going to college. I got a scholarship to go to college, and the scholarship consisted of a job. And that was a government job, paid 25 cents an hour, NYA. So it worked out real well. I could earn enough money to pay my tuition and so on and go to school. The draft started in, I believe, 1941. So in the spring of 41, when the draft started I was living in Muncie, Indiana at that time, going to school. I believe I was about the 7th person drawn out of the draft for my county, and I got a deferment from the college president to the draft board to help me finish college. I had 1 more year to go. So I had the privilege of finishing college before I went in service. So after I got my senior year of college completed and was graduated, I then enrolled in the Army. And in doing so, I got into a unit called a Officers Candidate School, which college graduates could go directly into after they've had a preliminary training. So I went into officer's candidate school in 1941 and became a second lieutenant at that point. And then I had no choice. Went directly into artillery, anti-aircraft artillery. So I learned in my training the identification of German, American airplanes and so on, and then we learned how to fire 40 millimeter cannons and automatic weapons and so on, and got prepared to go to Europe.
What happened when you, at the point where you finished your schooling? Where did you leave? At what place did you leave to go over to Europe? And where did you go when you went over there?
Okay, I was in mid-country, Muncie, Indiana, and I went into a unit in the center of Indiana for I forget the name, but at any rate, I went in there and was processed and went through the training in the eastern part of the United States, and they organized a battalion of brand new draftees, 18-year-old kids. So my anti-aircraft battalion that I joined into was an anti-aircraft training group with a bunch of kids. I was 24 years old, so I was the old man. And we got along real well. I was a platoon commander of this unit, and we started over from Boston, left in Boston, and our training was in the east, and most our enrollees were from the east, and we boarded a Puerto Rican banana boat.
Oh.
And they took out the balancing unit and put the soldiers down the bottom, so we put in beds all the way up where they used to have crates and that kind of thing. So, and the ballast was gone from the old banana boat, so it waved in the ocean so much, everybody got real seasick. And if you were on the top of the layer of bed people, you were pretty good, but if you're at the bottom, you caught all the draft. But at any rate, we took 11 days to go across, zigzagging across the ocean, of course, to avoid being bombed down, and landed in Scotland and boarded the train in Scotland and went clear down to Wales for the arranging they made down in southern Wales in preparation for the invasion into Europe. And I was in a preparation group for D-Day invasion, and they had thousands and thousands of soldiers there arranging, planning, training, and so on to go cross over in Europe for the invasion.
I'm sure that you had a lot of feelings that were going over there, and can you maybe talk about what you were feeling or thinking? How did your family react when you left to go to war?
Well, naturally, my family, I was married. In fact, the year after I finished my junior year of college and had a year yet to go into college, I had an opportunity there to get married. And I married a nurse, the best nurse the hospital had. And we really had a fine, fine marriage. And the family, of course, was devastated that I would be going overseas. They were really, but we had no communications. The only communications we had, of course, was in writing, and that's a slow process. We did have some types of letters that were flown back and forth, which was expediting the communication link. But that's the closest we got to my family for 2 years. And my wife and, of course, my family were really, really broken up that I had to go, and I was one of the prior people in the groups to go overseas, so the future didn't look too good. But we boarded trains in Wales, as I said, and went down and assembled, and we were in the assembling area for quite a long while. They were getting prepared and trying to stay away from buzz bombs that came over from Europe to England.
Yes.
So we had some rough experiences during that processing period.
Do you remember when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor? When they bombed Pearl
Yes.
Harbor? What were you doing at that time?
Well, at that time, my girlfriend and I at that time were down at her folks, and we stood behind a stove and heard over the radio that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. And we knew right then, at my age, I would be one of the eligible ones to help out in this thing. So we knew well ahead of time that it was going to be our family involved. But the thing of it is, all of us in those days were extremely patriotic, and we would all do everything in our power to work together for a common cause. Everybody. And the people at home had just as much trouble as some of us in their own way with all kinds of problems.
When you were overseas, did you actually participate in the combat, and how did you feel about that, and what kind of feelings do you have about that situation, and perhaps maybe some memories of what that was like?
Well, you're touching a soft point here. I cannot talk too much about what I did. I always choke up, and I cannot do it. I did participate the 4th day of the invasion onto Normandy, and from then on, all the way across until Germany capitalized, I was in the war. I was attached to General Patton's 3rd Army, and there was no relief on if you served under General Patton. In the process, I did get involved in 7 different combat area fighting from the invasion all the way through France and Belgium, Battle of the Bulge, Germany, and so on. So I went the whole 9 yards.
Did you make any close friends during this time that you keep in touch with, or?
No. What happened after the war, I had a good bit of time adjusting. So I didn't want to get back to what I'd been through, and I wanted to get as far away from it as I could. So I did not and have not gotten back to any of them. I did not make friends and so on during the war. You don't do that. You fight for survival. And so we had very little social time together.
Do you remember what you were doing at the end of the war? Where were you at that point when the war was over?
We were fighting Hitler, and that's where we were at the end of the war.
Do you can you talk about when you returned home? Who was there? And what that experience was like?
Well, I went when I came back. I hitchhiked back from southern Indiana, where I was processed out, to northern Indiana. I got a ride with another veteran going north, and I went to my wife. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I stayed together. I had a horrible time adjusting. And so my wife, being a nurse, helped with the adjustment. And then the next few days, we didn't go the first day, but 2 or 3 days later, out to my mother and dad and family. So they were obviously extremely happy to see me, but I couldn't go to family get-togethers or things like that for a while.
What did you do after you got out of the military? Can you talk about your life after?
Yeah, I had some time that I didn't go to work after I got out of service, so I had some adjusting periods. And then after I graduated from college, I very briefly worked in the office, one of the offices for General Motors there in Muncie, Indiana, as a clerk in there just to fill in. And when I got back from service, I went back to that, and then very shortly after that I got a call from a gentleman wanted me to go into teaching, which I was prepared for. I had a license for a teacher and administrator and so on, and I went into teaching then. And
that was your career?
Yeah, I was in education then for 41 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Very good. And did you have any children? Do you have any children?
I have 2 boys. We have 2 boys, and fortunately, they're still living close to us. We are family, still a family as such, are very close-knitted people. And after we got back a source and so on, got adjusted, my parents passed away, and my mother first and then my father, and my dad asked if I would keep the family together after he left, and my wife and I started a family union 33 years ago, and we're still going.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
still
awesome.
We're still a family reunion meets this weekend, so we're looking forward to it.
Yes. Now, I noticed that you have some pictures here. Do you want to hold it up and explain what you have in there?
Well, my wife fixed this up. This is the unit that I was with, and the Third Army symbol right here. And of course, that's a picture of me going in, and that's a picture of me coming out. This is the second lieutenant, and this is the captain I've earned during the war. And these are our symbols that we wore on our dress uniforms. And of course, this is a tag that we carried with us for identification.
Now, where was this bottom picture taken?
This was taken in Washington, D.C. I went on an honor trip there, and these are places that I've been that symbolizes, and there's 4 bronze stars and 5 bronze stars and 2 silver stars for combat units that I was in. So we just kept this for family.
It's a great memento, or special memory to hold on to.
Yeah, they are for where it's been. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Well,
or talk about?
I know it's kind of difficult, but I am thankful that I had an opportunity to serve our country. I'm real thankful. I have a lot of feelings for our country, and we had so many comrades lost their lives defending our country or in behalf of our country, and I can't help but think of them when I think of the war. So I don't like to do that too much, but I am so grateful that I'm still living and contributing something, I hope, back to what I have been given.
Well, your service was very important, and we're very, very thankful that you allowed us to interview you today. I did want to have you, just an aside, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do?
Oh.
Can you talk about some of your hobbies?
My hobbies. I tell you what I like to do at home. I'm a crafts person. I like to build things and make things and create things and so on. I have a wonderful, wonderful wife, and she's still living. She's 7 years old. I'm 98. I'll be 99 this fall. We like to do things together, my wife and I. And she's a crafts person as well. So we like to do things, hobbies, together, and mostly in building and developing things. We love to read. We both have library books every week, large print, of course, for helping us, and we read every night. And we try to be active every day, and we participate in as many activities in Village Manor as we can. And we like to socialize. We like people, like to be around people.
Yes, that's important.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Have you gone back to your hometown at all since in your time? Is that where you have your reunions?
Oh no, we picked a place in central Indiana in central Kentucky for a reunion, something that was close to the highways and that kind of thing. So we did, when we first, right after we got back in service and got adjusted and all this kind of stuff, we went back every year to family reunions, always did. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and so on, family always got together. And now is our 33rd one, and it's in central Kentucky, and we have a family outreach of 11 different states attend. These are not children, but grandchildren, great-grandchildren, aunts, nephews, nieces, and so on. So in our reunion, we've had up as high as 84, I believe, and average about 65.
Wow.
And I coordinate that with a park in Kentucky and send out notices to all who have been attending, encourage them more to attend. And so our family is getting bigger as far as numbers, but the age is younger. They're getting younger.
Yeah.
So we enjoy family. If you don't have a family, you don't have much. That's it.
When your boys were younger, what kind of vacations did you go on? Is there any special?
Oh yes, when our kids were younger, I'm running out of time here.
Okay.
Yes, when our boys were young, we did everything in our power to educate them, and we traveled to Washington, D.C. We showed them all around the history points of Washington and so on. We went to the South, went through a lot of southern states to show how things were there. And we did every summer that we had a vacation, we would save up money. We're very, very frugal. And we would save up all year for our $100 to go on vacation. So that's what we did, and we enjoyed it.
Well, I think we are almost at our 30-minute limit. Let me see. Otherwise, maybe you can. I think we're good. I hope you have a great day and your family reunion goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and for your service. And I hope that everything goes well. Thank you
will.
so much.
It will. We're optimistic people.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Very good.